Well, hi there. This is my first live stream. I believe we've got John and Sandra in watching. At the moment, we've got 3 viewers, so there's 2 other people. That makes it slightly easier for me because I feel less nervous. Now, I do this kind of thing all the time, talking to the camera when I'm filming videos, but doing it as a live stream is completely different. I didn't realise just how nervous I'd feel. But welcome for the people that are here, and if you're watching after when on the repeat, welcome as well. So tonight what I'm going to do is I've got some viewer questions that I'm going to answer. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about how and why I started YouTubing. So if you've got any questions at all, write them in the chat and I'll try and keep track of them. Hopefully somebody can tell me straight away whether you can hear me and whether all of the technical issues are working properly. I did do some tests today, so hopefully things should be working correctly. But if somebody can just let me know down there in the chat whether you can hear me all okay and whether the volume's at the right level, I'd be very, very grateful. But as I said, welcome to everybody that's watching at the moment. The views are going up. We've got 8 viewers now. Great. Thanks, John. That's great to know that loud and clear. So I do apologise if anything goes wrong, but hopefully it should all be fairly smooth because I've done quite a bit of testing and a few people have even actually spotted my tests while I've been practicing using OBS and the live stream, and have jumped on the chat and wished me well for tonight. So I'm sure everything will go swimmingly. So I'll probably go for about 45 minutes, but it depends how we go and how many people come into the chat. Hi Riley, hi Corey. Corey's just come into the chat. He's a guy from New York who I was talking to on Instagram a few days ago, and welcome Corey. I think he's on his lunch break at the moment. What shall we do first? So I want to thank everybody, first of all, for their really kind comments. And that's a good point to mention Corey as well. He gave me some very, very complimentary comments saying how much he enjoys my videos. And it does actually blow me away how much people appreciate what I do. It's something that I never thought I'd be in the position to do. When I started the YouTube channel, talking in front of a camera was completely alien. And if anybody's been brave enough to go back and look at some of my very first attempts at videoing, I just find it really embarrassing. Now, you might not actually notice the same, but when I look back on something from 2 years ago, I just find it flat and not very interesting at all. We've got Stephen in. Hi, he's from fairly local to where I live. He's only just around the corner, about 5 or 6 miles away. So hi, Stephen. And now, a couple of years later, here I am doing my first live stream. Now, I am a teacher by profession, so I am used to talking in front of people, and I do talks at camera clubs and that kind of thing. So I'm not completely averse to talking to a group of people, but it is quite strange. In front of me, I've just got a camera and a bank of screens, but I know at the moment we've got 8 people watching, and it's just very strange to not quite have that interaction that you get when you know that there's an actual face or some kind of response. So do let me know in the chat any thoughts that you have, any questions you have, because these kind of things work much better if we have some kind of to and fro and some kind of conversation rather than me just talking at the camera. So do let me know your questions, but what we'll do is we'll get into some questions that have been sent to me. Now, there was somebody called Max that left me a question, and he asked me, what first inspired you to create your composite images in Photoshop? Now, a little bit later when I talk about how I became a YouTuber, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But when I first got into taking photographs, I had a digital camera. I never used a film camera. It was just a digital camera. And with that first digital camera, I started to experiment with Photoshop. I got a version of Photoshop. I think it was Photoshop 4 at the time, which is way, way back, from a cover disc. So it was a free copy of Photoshop. You wouldn't get it free nowadays. But I experimented with the magazines and taught myself Photoshop. And it was just a way of being expressive, because I did A-level art at school. And it was just a way of expressing my artisticness, but in a very instant way. And it's just something I really liked. And then I joined a camera club, and we had a speaker come to the camera club that specialised in composite photographs, and inspired me to take my Photoshop work in a different direction. Oh, yeah, well, what I do plan to do, Corey, is launch a second channel. Now, I did mention this a while ago. It is all set up, but I just haven't had time to actually set up the Photoshop channel. There are some Photoshop videos on the main channel, and if I get time, now everything's set up here, I hope that I can then do a little bit more Photoshop, specifically on my Photoshop channel. So let's just do a little switch so you can see one of my very first composites. There we go. So hopefully you should now be seeing a version of, there it is. My preview screen is a little bit delayed, so I just want to know that you are seeing what I'm definitely showing. This is one of my most successful images, and I took this when I was in a little bit of a dark space. I wasn't particularly mentally okay at this time. I was having a bit of a rough time, and I was wanted to take a photograph, and this is a self-portrait, believe it or not. Some people don't believe me when I say this is a self-portrait, but I took it about 3 meters from where I'm filming now in this room, with some studio lights and a backdrop. I just cut it out and stuck it on the wall that's from a completely different place. But this has been really successful for me. It's won me a couple of gold medals in national competitions, and it's done really well for me. So this is one of my most memorable images, and if I just scroll through some of the other ones, this image, oh, it's going to go big and then small again. This image here was another one that I took. The man on the beach was taken in Winchester, and the beach is Bournemouth, if I remember rightly. And so I developed this style. I'll just put a few of them on the screen. I won't talk in depth about all of them, otherwise it'll be all night, because I can talk for England about these kind of things. So it was when we got to this kind of thing that I really started getting experimental. Now, this one doesn't actually look too composed, but the girl standing on the ball is actually a globe. What I needed to do was take a picture of the girl, and she was stood on a box. Then I also took a picture of her sat on a seat with her feet on top of the ball, and I've cut the two bits out and stuck them together so it appears like she's actually balancing on the top of the ball. This is another one. You've probably seen this kind of thing done many times. Basically, we were in an old abandoned house, and we found a television set that was just left there. So we laid the model on the television set. I took a picture in this pose. Then she moved. I moved the TV set out of the way, and then took a picture of the room without anything in at all, and just cut out the TV set to make her look like she was floating. And then from this point, these are the more modern ones where they start getting a little bit more inventive. This one's done fairly well in competitions for me as well. This is one of my fairly new ones that hasn't actually seen any competition outings, so I don't know how well this will do. But again, this does very well in competitions, as does this. This has also won me a gold medal, and so is this. Now, this particular image you may remember from a video that I made. This actually won best overall in the Dingwall national competition in Scotland. So I'm really proud of that. Let's go back to full screen while I just... So that is my composite collection. It's really a way of expressing my artistic nature in a creative way. But I actually don't do very much of this anymore. I tend to do more wildlife and landscape photography, as you'll notice from the channel. And the next question comes from Ryan Morris. And Ryan says, what is your favourite bird to photograph? Now, if behind the scenes I just do a little swap, you'll have to just bear with me a second while I just swap screens. And there we go. If we go back to the display mode, I've got several birds that I really like to photograph, but there are some birds that or some photographs rather, that stand out in my mind that I took. So I've put together a few of my favourite bird photographs. This one I particularly like because of the way it's framed by the lilies. It's quite artistic. So this one was a black-headed gull that I took at a nature reserve. Then this is a grey wagtail that I took down at my hide by a pond. Now, you may have seen photographs from down here of the kingfisher. Unfortunately, that hasn't shown up this year, but there'll be some pictures in a second. Out in my back garden, you've probably seen me taking photographs of birds from my hide, and this is a coal tit. Very difficult to take because they're extremely fast and quite small birds. Then way back, if you've dug back into my archives, you may see a video from probably over 2 years ago where I took these pictures of these tawny owl chicks down near where the pond is that I take photographs of the kingfisher. They were in a nest box, obviously, but during the day, I set up a little hide that has now actually become my kingfisher hide, and then I went down in the evening and got these shots here. So I was really pleased with those. Obviously, the greater spotted woodpecker is always exciting, but this visits my back garden very regularly. And then, of course, probably my favourite bird is the kingfisher. Every time you see one of these, or certainly for me, every time I see one, it's just magical. And where I was down in my hide, it was about 3 or 4 meters away from me, and it allows you to get these really crisp, sharp images. And if you are interested, there must be about 5 or 6 different videos just specifically relating to these kingfisher shots on the channel. So go and have a search through my back catalogue. Now, this particular shot here is one of my favourites. It's actually on a canvas in our living room, and the canvas is about 3 foot long. I just like the way that the background is completely plain, and that was caused by the surface of the water on the pond. I was actually looking slightly downwards towards the water on the pond, but because it was so far away, it just was completely flat without any detail in at all. But that's how I managed it. Okay, right. Okay, cool. Right. Just catching up with the rest of the chat now. Local photos of wildlife. Yes, yeah, it is nice. And so those are my favourite shots of birds. Now, I haven't, just let me have a look through the chat. I can't see any other questions that anybody particularly wants me to answer. But don't forget, if you do have any questions at all that you want me to answer, I'll do my best to answer them. But what I shall do is I'll just go back to full screen while I just change my screen over here, because what I've got is a presentation just to help me talk through some of my reasons for becoming a YouTuber. I thought it'd be quite interesting to just let you know why I started becoming a YouTuber in the first instance. Freddie's just joined us. Hi, Freddie. Don't forget, if you are watching and you haven't left a message in the comments, do let me know who you are. Helps me just give you a shout out and say hello to you. I don't think I've said hello to Riley. Apparently I keep glitching. Has anybody else had that problem? Do let me know if there's any technical faults, because I can't tell from this end. It could be Riley's connection at his end, but I apparently have got an excellent connection from my end, so hopefully it's not me and nobody else is having that problem. But do let me know in the chat. Do I ever think of going out the Isles of Mull? There are so many. John's just asked, do I ever think about going to the Isle of Mull? Well, I would like to go all kinds of places and take different photographs. But unfortunately, with working all the time, it's difficult to get to certain places. A few other people are saying, yes, it's a little bit glitchy, so I do apologise. Hope it's not too bad, and he's still managing to watch without too much distraction. As far as I can tell, all of my settings seem to be optimised. I've got an excellent connection. I'm not dropping any frame rates according to any frames according to OBS, but hopefully it's not too bad. So I apologise if it's distracting. So what I'll do is I'll just change to my small view again. So this is a PowerPoint I've put together, and it's really not, I hate PowerPoints where people just sit and read it. It's more a aid memoir to myself, just to remind me of what to talk about, because there's nothing worse than somebody sticking a PowerPoint presentation on the screen and then them just reading it. It's so frustrating, but you see it all the time. But it's just a good way of showing you some things and just reminding me I'll be really dull. Right, so one of the things you will hear me say lots and lots on the channel is that you need to enjoy your photography. This is really important to me because when I was entering a lot of competitions, I got to the point where I was focusing on taking photographs to please judges. And what happened is, before I even pressed the shutter button, I was thinking, will a judge like this picture? Is it going to do well in a competition? And it's absolutely not the right way to go about taking pictures at all. Because if you're thinking about what somebody else is going to think, then you become really obsessed with the end result, rather than just pleasing yourself and doing something that you feel proud of. And so I came up with this motto to enjoy your photography. And I think it's really important because whatever type of photography you do, whether you're a beginner, whether you take pictures on your phone, whether you are wanting to get better, or even a professional, I think whatever you do, you need to find something that you can really enjoy. And I do really genuinely think it is a vital part. And if somebody else likes your photograph, then that is just a bonus. So don't try and take pictures for somebody else. Now, I did mention slightly earlier that I did a lot of composite work, but I got to the point where I was just churning these out almost on a conveyor belt, and it became, so it was unsatisfying, because yeah, I like the process, but I think I'd got to a point where I couldn't really seem to take it any further, and so I'd kind of lost my mojo, to quote Austin Powers, and so I didn't know which kind of genre I wanted to do, whether I was go down the direction nature, landscape, or astro, street. There's so many different types of photography that you can start to focus on, but I knew I needed to do something different. And what happened is in 2019, I went to Iceland with a group of friends to a trip to just take photographs. Excuse me. And it absolutely was an amazing experience. We were there for nearly a week in February, and it was just mind-blowing when you stood on the side of a glacier looking over the expanse and thinking just how amazing it is. It was mind-blowing, and when I came back I was fired up to start to take landscape shots. And so I started my YouTube channel only about 3 or 4 weeks after that. I'd been watching quite a few photographers on YouTube. I'm sure you're all familiar with people like Thomas Heaton and Nigel Danson. I'd been watching those before I went to Iceland, and for quite a few years, in fact. And I thought, well, I'm sure I could have a go at this, but my main reason really was just to give me the incentive to get out with my camera, because I need something to get my teeth into, and when I do, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And so I knew that if I'd got some kind of incentive, and that would come from the YouTube, I'd have something new to learn, a new skill in the videography and the editing, and it would get me out. And some of my first attempts, as I've said earlier, were a bit embarrassing, but it did get me out with my camera, and I started using my equipment and thinking a little bit more creatively. And we're probably about 3 years later, because I did have a little bit of a break where it sort of had a false start in 2019. The summer and the autumn of 2019, the channel pretty much dried up again. But I started putting a video every week on from early 2020, and I've done that every week since. But it's not actually as straightforward as people think. I've got a short clip here. Hopefully this will come across fairly well. This is of me and how I solo film. So I've put together, I picked out a little bit from a video, and if you just think about how I managed to film this on my own, it's quite complicated, because there's a lot of putting the tripod down, walking away from it, walking back to the tripod, picking it up, moving it to a different location, walking away from it, walking back. And this short sequence probably took the best part of half an hour to film. Anyway, that doesn't seem to want to play. Ah, how annoying. Right, anyway, so basically that was a shot that I took where I walked over a bridge, and it played perfectly this afternoon when I did a test. I don't know why it's not doing it at the moment. That's technical issues for you. But yeah, I walked down a path, I walked over the bridge, and then off the other side. But there was many different shots where I had to pick up the tripod and move somewhere else. It's a shame that's not working. Another thing, I've mentioned my catchphrase, enjoy your photography. That came about quite early on, but you might also notice at the end of the videos, I finish with a salute and a see you soon. Nobody's ever really commented on it, but it's interesting to know where that actually came from. And I've got to go back to almost my 3rd or 4th video, and I did it almost by accident. Now, if this video clip would have worked, you would have seen the first time that I did it, and I was almost trying to wave at the camera and ended up saluting, and it kind of stuck. I thought, I don't know whether it's a signature move, but I just liked it, and I thought, well, that's a bit different at the end of the video. So that's where that came from. Check that out. It's one of my 4th or 5th videos back in very, very early days. I bet when I test this at the end, that'll work again straight away. Now, the channel has grown and grown. At the moment, I'm up to 4,400 subscribers. It might have gone up even more since this afternoon, who knows, and 145 uploads. I do find it really amazing that I've got to this stage. It is sometimes difficult coming up with ideas, and of late I've started to do some slightly different things because just to keep it fresh, doing nature and landscape all the time is a little bit challenging sometimes to just keep interesting, especially if I can't travel very far to locations or to find wildlife. I could film videos from my shed in the garden every week, but it wouldn't be very interesting to watch. Just reading what Greg said. I make short videos of what I see while out there with nature and don't vlog. You do excellent videos. Oh, thank you, Greg. That's very kind. Let's just catch up with a bit of. There's quite a few comments coming while I've been talking. Right, hi Colin. I haven't mentioned you, I don't think. I haven't been to the South Stacks at Holy Island. I have been to the Farne Islands. That was really good. And hi Greg. Yeah, I've said Greg. It is amazing to just think how big the channel is getting, and it just inspires me to go out and do more. Yeah, well, everybody's channel grows at different rates, Greg. It's taken me now 3 years to get to this stage, and it is a steady growth. And I don't think I'll ever be a Nigel Danson or a Thomas Heaton. But I was going to say I just enjoy it, and I thought that was a bit corny, so I stopped myself from saying that. But I genuinely do. I genuinely do enjoy the process of going out with my camera and filming the videos at the same time. The editing process as well is enjoyable to me. Actually crafting the video at the end when I get it all back and adding the soundtrack and cutting it all together. I just find the whole thing really enjoyable. It is fun, yeah. So there is lots of equipment that I need. As with any photography, you will take out lots of equipment, but generally speaking, when I go out filming, I will have the vlogging camera on a tripod and then my stills camera on a tripod, and sometimes I'll take a backpack with different lenses. Now you will see me in some videos walk out without a backpack because I've got a little bit of a dodgy back, and so walking any long distances with a heavy pack can be a little bit tortuous. So sometimes I try and travel as light as possible, maybe have a lens in one of my pockets. Because you might have seen my big green coat that I wear in some videos. That's got huge pockets all over the place. So it's great for just putting some spare batteries or some lenses in, that kind of thing. When I first started, I had a sound recorder. Here it is. So I used to use this to record the sound. Because the camera that I started with didn't have a microphone input. But the camera that I use now, the microphone goes directly into the camera, so that saves so much issue. It's really important to take spare batteries that I've just mentioned. My first proper vlog, I visited a waterfall and ran out of battery power and had to film the final bit on my phone, which was a bit of a schoolboy error. So I learnt from that very quickly. And on the front of the camera, I've got a variable neutral density filter, which looks like this. And as you spin it, it changes the density of the filter. And so it's a really quick way of adjusting the exposure on the vlogging camera if it's too bright or too dark. So I have left the drone on this slide. Now I tend not to use it anymore because the laws in England have changed and I just haven't kept up to date with them. I have got my eye on the new Mavic Mini, which is under 250 grams and is a lot more user you can fly it in more locations. There are restrictions to where you can fly the larger drones, and so I just don't want any hassle with any regulations. So I've let my license lapse, just because I don't use it that much anymore. And if I was taking it out, I'd have to put it in the backpack and carry that as well, which I've already mentioned is difficult. But just at the bottom there is a little bit of a formula that I've come up with, because an average video that you see on a Sunday takes me between 8 and 10 hours to put together. If I go out filming to a reserve, say for instance, I can be there for 4 or 5 hours taking photographs, and then when I get back home, I spend at least that much time editing, because I'm very fussy when it comes to getting the video cut correctly and not having too much B-roll, but just enough, and then making the soundtrack fit. And so all in all, it can take the best part of 8 to 10 hours. So 1 minute of video is about an hour's worth of work. Now, I've seen quite a few more comments come in, so let's just catch up with the comments. Who haven't I said? Well, thanks, John. He says I'm doing a great job, so I'm glad of that. Great. Love my videos. Cheers, Corey, for your kind words. I've said that to you before. Dave, hi, you're new. I haven't seen you, Dave. Any tips on spotting kingfishers? Really, the only tips I've got is the only experience I've really got for kingfishers is I know that I used to see them down at my kingfisher hide, but they've disappeared now. I did visit a place called Pennington Flashes, which is up near Wigan, if you're in that kind of area. And both times that I visited there, I have seen a kingfisher. But really, there's a guy, Mike Lane, is another YouTuber. Now, I have been in contact with Mike at one point. One of my friends saw him out fairly locally. He's got some great tips on kingfishers. He's much more of an expert than I am. So check out Mike Lane. He's got a YouTube channel with some great ideas on kingfishers. Another Mike, he's binge watching my videos. Well, don't go too far back, because I've said before, they're a little bit embarrassing back there. But I'm glad that you've gained a lot from watching them. So that's really great to hear. I remember when you forgot your memory card. I've done that so many times. Even now, I still have to really think very carefully about checking for batteries and memory cards, because what I do, I've got camera equipment everywhere, but I don't know whether you've ever noticed, on my cameras, I've got a neoprene strap, but just here on the strap is a little zippy case that I keep a spare memory card in. So if I've got the camera and I forget to put the memory card actually in the camera because it's still in the computer, I'll have a spare one in this little zippy case. So that's a good tip, because the amount of times I've done that, I'm a bit forgetful, really. Where are we up to? Oh, this is a new person. Trash Panda. That was a memory card one. Corey, you're making me jealous. He's ordered the Mavic Mini. Yeah, that's the other thing that slightly put me off. I have got a new lens for my Z6 II on order, but I don't know when that's ever going to come. Greg's got a Mini. Great. Thanks for the advice. That's handy. Dung, 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 dung. Right, that's good. Stephen says it comes across in my videos how much I love photography, and that is really what I wish. When I first started, I'd got the passion, but I don't think I could quite put it over. And my wife sometimes laughs at me when I'm out in the back garden filming, because I do try and put energy into my videos to make them interesting. It's not quite how I talk in normal life, but I did some amateur dramatics when I was younger, so I'm used to performing, and standing in front of a class of children, you kind of have to perform to a certain extent. So I'm glad that it actually comes across that I am enjoying myself. Cool. I think I'm up to date with most of the chat, but thanks for your comments. If you are sitting watching and haven't left a message, or you've got any questions, do leave them in the chat, and I'll try and answer those. And if I do miss them, because there's a few coming up now, just write them again, and I'll try and get to them. Oh, Greg's ordered the Z 800mm. Oh, you're all making me jealous now. The one I've ordered is the I think it's 24 to 120, just to give me some range. But oh gosh, the 800mm, but that's set you back a few pence, or dollars, or whatever currency you use, Greg. But yeah, I'd love to do that kind of thing. Maybe when I retire and I've got loads of money. Anyway, let's get back onto the talking about some equipment. Now, one thing to watch for in the coming weeks, you may have seen the video that I've got on my time-lapse camera, but I've also now got a camera trap. So this is a proper wildlife trap. The problem with this time-lapse camera is it doesn't have infrared, and it won't take photographs at night without an LED illumination. But this is infrared, so it will take pictures in the dark. And I have located somewhere where I know locally there are some badger sets, and so I'm going to set this up. So in the future, watch out for some video from that, and hopefully if I can locate the badgers, then I'm going to get a pop-up hide and try and get some actual photographs. That's all in the plan, so that's coming in the future. So I don't know when that will happen, because I don't even know whether there are any badgers there. There are definitely the holes, so they've been there at some point, but I'm going to have to do some investigating, so look forward to that. I'm not going to talk about that. This was just some boring stats. One of the things that I use just to find out how the channel is doing is a service called vidIQ, but it shows you how many when your most popular month was, all of your milestones. But basically, when you reach a milestone, you get a certificate that looks like this. And so fairly recently, in the middle of March, I reached my 4,000th subscriber. Obviously now I'm on the way to 5,000. I'm nearly halfway there, so I'm hoping that should happen probably towards the end of August or something like that. But every single subscriber is a bonus to me. It's just it always blows me away every time that my subscription count just keeps going up. And when I get comments like the ones I'm receiving here in the live chat tonight about how much people enjoy my videos, it's just so encouraging to me. Now, again, this would have played if this was working. I don't know why it's not working. You may have seen this video when I filmed it in Padley Gorge when my camera fell over into the river. Now, I did put a compilation in this week's video about how many times that my camera's fallen over. I am pretty much known as somebody that's fairly clumsy, and my wife quite often, I've got issues here with my headphones. My wife often tells me about how clumsy I am, and if you watch the video in a couple of weeks, I've got an absolute classic blooper that happened yesterday. Because at the moment, what I'm doing this week, I've been filming my how many species of birds can I photograph in 3 days. If you're a regular to the channel, you will have seen that I have done this now for the past 2 years. So this is the 3rd year that I've done this challenge. Basically, I set myself a challenge to photograph as many species of birds as I can within 3 days, within a mile of where I live. Now, I am very lucky that I live out in the countryside. I'm going to get rid of that earphone. It's getting on my wick. traffic. I am very lucky that I live out in the countryside, so I've got lots of fields and ponds around me. But last year I got 34 different species of birds that I photographed. So this year I've been out, and today has been day 3. So you'll have to watch in a couple of weeks to find out whether I beat 34 from last year. But as I was saying, there was a moment where I was filming a little bit to the camera, and I sat down on a fence, and the fence collapsed under me. Now, I did catch this on video, and it is in next week's video, so make sure you watch that. It's a really good blooper, and it will go into my blooper compilation number 7, which will be probably sometime in the summer. Let's just have a little catch up with the chat. Thanks, Greg, for your congratulations. Oh, I've missed a few. It's been coming up. Just reading down the chat. I need to get one of them. It's hard work reading and trying to talk and be and present as well at the same time. Really tricky. I don't know how these people do it all the time. They probably get better with skill. So yeah, John remembers that one. I do remember that. If I was, yeah, the thing is, Greg says, this is quite an interesting point. Greg says if he was to add bloopers, it would be the whole video. Now, when I first started, I would have said the same thing, because nearly all of the time I was making mistakes, and I do like to get my words correct, and I want it to come over properly. And I don't like pregnant pauses like that when I'm thinking, so I cut all of those out. And if I'm not happy with the take, I'll retake it. But when I first started, I was making errors all of the time. And some mornings, even this morning when I went out, the first couple of shots that I take, it takes a little bit of time to get warmed up, and sometimes I make such a mess of it. And at one point, somebody did say to me in a comment that they thought I'd got Tourette's, because now I haven't. Just occasionally, if I make a mistake, I don't like swearing, and I don't keep any swearing in my videos. So what I tend to do instead is make some daft noise, but it's more frustration really than anything else. And quite a lot of those end up in the bloopers reel, and it's just my frustration at myself not being able to talk really. And so as you do more of talking to the camera, though, it does become so much more natural. This week's video that's coming out on Sunday, I filmed at the local vintage rally, and that is where there's lots of classic cars and old vehicles, and I had to talk in front of crowds of people just walking past. Now, there's not a chance that I would have been able to do that 2 years ago, or even perhaps 6 months ago. But I've got to the point now where I just set the camera up, started talking to it, and people didn't bother. But very, very few people paid me any attention at all. In fact, there were people walking behind me and like camera bombing without even really wanting to. They were just like oblivious that I was there almost. But have a watch of that on Sunday. It's a little bit different, especially if you're into cars or vehicles. It's something a little bit different. I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Right, let's have a little look at this chat. Corey, thanks. He likes my bloopers. At one point, I did put bloopers at the end of every video. And the last one that I did was my tour of Whitby, and I kind of wished I hadn't, because I did find that it was just, I'd put all this effort into producing a really tight video, and then I felt almost at the bloopers at the end, cheapened the video a little bit. Now, you could argue the fact that some people might have stayed to the end of the video just to see the bloopers, but I thought it probably best just to save them up and release them as a compilation. So that's what I do now. So there is still plenty of bloopers from these last 3 days where I've been out filming and taking photographs of birds. I must have a couple of minutes worth of bloopers, especially the one falling in the where the fence collapsed under me. Just reading this. Oh, right, I've got a question here from Trash Panda. Would I say I'm a photographer or a wildlife photographer? That's a really interesting question, because I would absolutely definitely say that I'm a photographer. Now, I do on the channel tend to specialize in landscape and wildlife, because I think it's good to let the viewers know what they're going to get to a certain extent. But equally, like I've just mentioned, this weekend I went out and took photographs of vehicles, and that's what this week's video is going to be about. And really, it's good because what it does is it challenges you to think about a completely different style of photography. Now, if you just get sidetracked down into one particular genre of photography, you can get very stale and just not really think about what you're doing as much. I suppose there is the alternative argument that you can specialize and really fine-tune it, but I'm somebody that needs to be stimulated all the time, and if I was doing the same thing over and over again, I'd probably get bored. And so just throwing something different into the mix, like I do with some of my challenges that you may have seen on the channel, like my bingo challenge or my alphabet challenge. It was just something a bit different that was a bit fun to just get me out with the camera and do something that wasn't quite so serious. But good question. Thanks for that, Trash Panda. But yeah, I'd definitely say I'm a photographer. And to be honest, everything that I've learnt about wildlife photography has been completely made up. I'm not an expert by any means. The only thing I would say I've got some expertise in is the back garden bird photography. But that's only literally from doing a lot of it, because I've had my hide in the back garden now for probably about 7 or 8 years. So when you do a lot of it, you work out what works and what doesn't work. You know how to set perches up, you know how to what feed attracts the birds the best. You start to see patterns in which birds come at which times. There's certain birds that won't come until you've sat in the hide for about an hour, because they've just got some kind of alert level that they realise that somebody's about, so you have to sit very quietly. And there's one particular bird called a jackdaw. If you're from the UK, you might be familiar with it. But even when I'm in the hide with the nets down and everything, the slightest movement and they can see it from probably 10 or 15 meters away, and they won't even land and they'll fly off. And so they're very, very acute eyesight and senses. Whereas other birds like robins and goldfinch don't care. The noise of the camera going off doesn't faze them at all. So you just get to learn how different species act and how they react to different situations. But that would be the only thing that I would say I'm any kind of expert in. Right, let's just have a little look. I think that was the last slide. Yeah, it was. So let's just go back to full screen, and we're probably coming up towards the end of the stream. I'm just going to have a little look at the chat. What I'm thinking is I'm probably going to do about 5 more minutes before we end the stream. So if you've got any anything that you want to add, then just leave that comment down below. That's what I want to do. Right, I've got it now. So at the end of every video, I've kind of developed, it's not a script, but I've kind of developed a little closing. And one of the things I mention at the end of my videos is my Teespring store. I've added loads of new designs to my Teespring store. Now, let's just have a little look. Here are all of the new designs. I've done some special ones for my American viewers with the Enjoy logo and the American flag. There's an English one there, but there are quite a few new designs. I've done myself a keep calm and enjoy your photography design. So really, no pressure at all, but if you could go over there, have a little look around, see if there's anything that interests you, I'd be absolutely very, very grateful. It's great to have everybody on board and everybody giving me such great comments and feedback. It really makes everything that I do so worthwhile. Oh, we've got some questions coming in right at the end. Short video of how you do your vlog. Now, Greg has mentioned a video. It would be interesting to find out how I do my vlog. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll through my back catalogue, and there is one. You might have to find out where it is just while I'm talking. While I'm talking, I'm also scrolling to see if I can find it. Might have to go back quite a little bit. There it is. So if I just pop that on the screen so I can show you where it is. There we go. So I've gone through my back catalogue, and it's way back in April 2021. But if you look for this video here, Greg, which is behind the scenes making a YouTube video, it pretty much covers everything from the camera that I use to the editing process, and so that is probably the best the video. So there's one already there that will probably interest you. Now I might mispronounce this name, and if I do really apologize. I'm going to go with Gel, but if I mispronounce that, I do apologize. This person asks, which camera do I recommend to start bird photography with on a low budget? Really, any camera will be okay. What is more important is the lens. Getting the best lens that you can afford is what I would suggest first of all. And let me just get back to full screen. Just 2 seconds, let me grab my lens. There we go. Here is my lens that you will see me use all the time. This is a 200 to 500 millimeter lens, and this costs me just over £1,000. So I don't quite know what that is in dollars, but it was absolutely worth it because it's got so much range, and it helps you to fill the frame with the wildlife, because with wildlife you can't get very close because they will fly off. They just got fight or flight response, and so you need a longer lens to actually get the wildlife bigger in the frame. Now that would be my main suggestion. Get the best lens with the longest reach that you can afford, because a lot of cameras are very, very similar. There's a guy that I watch called Paul Miguel, who's another YouTuber, and I've seen him recently using the same camera that I use for vlogging, which is a Canon M50 with a longer lens on the front of that. And that is, I don't know how much that lens is, I've not looked into that, but I would imagine all of that setup would be fairly reasonable. But it's with photography, it's definitely you get what you pay for. Now I realise that I've got lots of kit, but I've built my kit up over a period of about 15 to 20 years. So I have got lots of it, but I haven't just gone out in one go and bought it. So yeah, I realise that people do have a budget, but lenses, that's what I would say. Let's just have a little what type of tripod head do you recommend for your bird photography? I've tried, just seeing where my tripod is. It's a good job. This is the room where let me grab mine. This room is where I dump all of my stuff. And so this is a ball head. Now, if I was really serious about my wildlife photography, then I would have a gimbal. So it's sort of like it's on a swing. That is really the best kind of head, but they're heavier. So to carry them round, this works very well because there's a sort of gear here that stiffens it up, so you can still move it or make it move a lot more. And this is very versatile. I've tried all kinds of different heads. I've tried some with handles where you actually tighten up to each one to move it in different directions. That's a bit too much of a fiddle to use for wildlife photography, because if a bird's moving, you want to be able to move the camera in all kinds of directions. So a ball head is probably a good in between. If you've got the money and really serious, the gimbal heads that they kind of got an L-shaped bracket and it swings in that kind of direction. That's probably the best. I just haven't had one of those because I'm not 100% wildlife photographer. I do need my kit for other things as well. Oh, right. Greg's asked me if I've considered switching systems. I do like Nikon, and I've always had Nikon right back from my first DSLR, which was a D70, way back. I know I had my D70 when we got married, which was in 2006. So I've been Nikon since then. And yes, I've considered switching. I've looked at the Sony system, but once you switch, you've got not only to switch cameras but lenses. Then there's all the peripherals that you don't always think about, like batteries and camera releases and filters and all of the other accoutrements that you just build up that all fit with one particular system. So yes, I've thought about it, but no, it's not going to happen because I just don't have that kind of money. Some of these YouTubers like you Jared Polins that get sponsored and cameras thrown at them left, right and centre, fine for them to switch systems left, right and centre, or if you're doing it professionally, but I'm not a professional, and so I'll be sticking with Nikon. And Greg started with a D70 as well. Yeah, over time I've had a D70, then I had a D300 that I dropped in a lake. That's another one that the people at the camera club quite often remember and remind me about that, because we were out on a camera club outing, one of the local attractions, and I was stood on a tripod by a lake and it tipped over and submerged and killed it. And then I think I had a D600, then a 700, then an 850. So I've had quite a few Nikons over the time. Right, I think we have gone past 8 o'clock, so I've been streaming and talking for an hour. I do thank everybody, whether you have watched live or whether you're watching on repeat, for viewing this video and leaving me all your brilliant comments. I do really appreciate every single one of you, and it still blows me away to think that so many people enjoy what I do. It just makes it all worthwhile, and I am so very, very grateful. So thank you, each and every one of you. It really, really is appreciated. And thank you for all of your comments now, Corey and Trash Panda and Greg. Thank you. Do let me know as well, either in the comments of this video or this stream, however you're watching it, or over Instagram, whether you would like me to do another live stream. I don't know whether I can do it weekly, but it's possibly something that I could look to do at least once a month. Whether it will always be on a Thursday, I don't know. It's just worked in well this week to do a Thursday. A weekend possibly might work for me slightly better. But do let me know, because if it's something that people want to see, I've really enjoyed myself. It's been good to engage with all of you people as well. And all that's left now is to say, stay safe. And I'll see you soon.